Hey folks, welcome to What's the Dilly-o, the podcast where we get real with the people building fintech tools that actually work. I'm Kanishka, and today we're diving into the wild world of collections. My first guest is Pratik Risbud, co-founder of Kato, who is building an AI voice agent that does what your overworked servicing teams wishes it could. So let's get into it. Welcome. Who are you, and what is Kato in one sentence?
I'm Pratik, CEO and co-founder of Kato. And at Kato, we're a compliance-first voice AI agent for modern lenders. So we reduce servicing costs and boost recoveries by automating routine calls end to end.
Very cool. What kind of got you into this? Like, what's broken about servicing and collections today that necessitated the build of Kato?
Yeah, it's a great question. The main problem that we see is that folks or servicing teams rather are really drowning in repetitive outbound calls. So think like payment reminders, payment plans, payment failures. And because of that, they can't call everyone that they need to. That leads to missed recoveries. They don't know when the best time to call is. And because the agents don't have time to I'm going to do that again. That leads to missed recoveries because teams can't actually call everyone consistently. They don't know what the best time to call is, and their agents don't actually have time to focus on the late stage high value delinquencies.
Got it. So these are the folks who, just missed their first payment. You need someone to reach out to them and say, hey, you owe me for, last week's payment. Can you just get back into it and, like put down your card or something, right? These are not the negotiated kind of conversations that collectors generally have.
That's exactly right. Those sort of later stage negotiations, that's where humans add value and are great at doing. What AI is good at is handling the repetitive ones consistently at scale. And that's hard. That sounds easy, but it's hard to do at scale.
Makes complete sense. Now, why doesn't this already exist? Like, why is this the norm of, having like a fleet of collectors out there who are just making these calls all day?
Yeah, I mean, up until recently, like the alternative to a human agent was the IVR system, and we've all had experiences with those. Like it never understands what you're saying. You have to repeat yourself. You just end up spamming zero on your phone, then to speak to a human agent. So we've all had that. And now with the recent sort of advancements in voice AI, it's gotten to a spot where it can hold real conversations. But the challenge is most of the generic voice AI solutions aren't a fit for lending. They can hallucinate, they can give the wrong information, which in the lending space, that can lead to millions of dollars of compliance fines. And lenders have really struggled to find a solution that works for them in lending at scale.
No, makes complete sense. I think collections is heavily regulated, and you have to be super careful about what you tell people. It's not so much the that Stewie gif of going out there with a baseball bat, beating Brian until he gets his money back. I think you just have to be very nice and cordial, but firm about what you're looking for. Do you find that your AI is able to kind of communicate in that manner?
Yeah, and what we've found, it's a great question. Like what we found works well is like a mix of empathy, but still being goal driven. So for example, when the customer or borrower tells you about their problem, like they lost their job, we empathize with them. Like, hey, I'm sorry to hear I lost your job, but we're still driving towards the goal of the conversation, which is to get money back. So that might be followed by like, hey, sorry to hear I lost your job. Here's a payment plan that we can offer you to help you get back on track. And it's achieving that balance that's what's important in the collection space.
Makes perfect sense. Who do you think feels the pain here the most?
Typically, like in a lending organization, typically a head of servicing or a head of collections, and they're thinking about the trade-off of like, do I hire more people who cost more and then try and get my recoveries up, or do I keep my headcount the same and accept lower recoveries and then just accept that I can't reach everyone?
Makes sense. Would you also say that the speed with which your AI agent can reach out relative to a human collector, or the um, uh, just the ability to consistently be reaching out without just getting tired on the phone, does that appeal to the buyers as well?
Yeah, less so the speed, and it's more about consistency, being able to call every borrower every day or whatever cadence the lender would like, and then just making sure on every call the experience is consistent and following procedures 100% of the time, right? Because humans can't reach everyone, they just don't have the time, and humans get tired. So the experience that you have with the human collector can vary depending on how they're feeling that particular day.
Got it. Got it. Talk me through the actual solution a little bit. Like, how you mentioned IVRs before, like how does it kind of differentiate from those or the self-serve Twilio bots?
Yeah, in terms of like how the solution works exactly. So think of us that our agent is handling the servicing workflow end to end. So we plug into the lender's loan management system, so like a Loan Pro, Peach, Canopy, or the CRM systems. We then pull borrower data. We then contact the borrowers, handle the conversation end to end. We're able to take payments on the call, and then we push all outcomes back to the loan management system. And some use cases that we handle outbound side is things like reminders, payments, payment plans. On the inbound side, answering FAQs, taking payments, setting up auto pay. To your second question around like how we different from IVR or those self-serve bots, IVR is pretty straightforward. We've all had the experience. Those are menus. Talking to a Kato agent is a conversation. With the self-serve bot, it really comes down to complexity. You as a lender have to spend hours every week managing it, debugging issues. It's a day-to-day thing you have to manage. Whereas with Twilio or whereas with Kato, we take that off your plate. It's a fully managed agent. We handle that end to end. And then more broadly against other voice AI agents in general, it comes down to a focus on compliance. So we're built for financial services because we've got those regulations built in directly, TCPA, FDCPA, and we're using templated answers for all sensitive parts of the conversation, which means we can guarantee compliance.
Got it. So it's almost like a human in the loop system where you have these common sense overrides over what a agent may hallucinate at any other point. You just say, no, if a person's asking this kind of questions, just use this templated answer. Don't try to think of an answer independently.
That's right. So not so much like human in the loop, but more like we're using AI to understand intent and then also be empathetic. But any sensitive part of the conversation, we're not using AI to generate the response. We're templating that part of the conversation. So anything like payment plans, product disclosures, mini Mirandas, all templated.
Got it. And do you guys, these templated answers, can folks like the collections folks actually go in and tell you what those templated answers should be, or is this just fully owned by Kato?
We have best practices around those and we have recommendations, but that's something that's fully customizable by the lender. We work with them to make sure their procedures are incorporated into our agent.
Got it. Fair enough. So I'm sure folks are kind of curious about what happens when someone actually picks up the phone. Like, what does a conversation feel like? So can you just kind of walk us through that?
Yeah, absolutely. At a high level, given where the tech's gone, it feels now like you're talking to a human agent. And the way the typical call flow works, and this is something we've learned over many iterations now of having conversations with borrowers, but it's really important to start with a hook. So something that keeps the borrower wanting to continue the conversation. So it might be like, hey, this is a call to get you back on track. Once they're hooked, then that's when we do the basics, like introduce ourselves, verify identity. Then we really try and understand why the borrower can't pay. Was it a job loss? Was it a medical expense? And then based on what they say, and we look up the lender's procedures and then guide them towards the right resolution, which could be making a payment, setting up a payment plan. And then if those folks agree to pay, then we can also process that payment on the call. So we handle all the next steps. And then once the borrower gets off the call, the entire workflow is completed.
Got it. Well, that's very much the happy path, right? And that's the happy path's usually pretty easy to solve for. Talk to me a little bit more about edge cases because I'm assuming that's where kind of your sweet spot is.
Yeah. And then we take a different approach there. So when it comes to edge cases, like because of our focus on compliance, we never make up an answer. So our agent is not going to just make up an answer from scratch. If it's something that's outside our scope, we'll transfer the call to a human agent, and we've done that with a full Slack and a voice summary as well, so that human agent picking up knows exactly what's happened on the call so far. And then what we do over time is as we see commonalities in those unhappy parts, we then build those into our agent to make sure our agent can handle them. So if we're seeing the borrowers ask certain FAQs, we'll add those in. If we're seeing confusion at certain points in the call, we'll update the scripts to explain a particular situation better. That iterative piece is a lot of what we bring to the table with our managed approach.
Got it. That makes a ton of sense. And all these kind of edge cases, assuming that you have all these different customers who are running concurrently, you're facing a ton of edge cases. So are you able to kind of learn from those and then everyone can enjoy the impact of your kind of collective learning, or do you keep it like very segregated to each client?
General best practice learnings we bring across our customer base. But obviously, like customer data security
Of
is
course.
incredibly important to us. So any learnings that are very customer specific around their particular product, their particular disclosures, we keep that at a customer level. But anything that's more general, right? Like certain types of hooks that work or certain types of scripts that we know perform well, we bring those across customers to then make sure everyone can share in those learnings.
Very cool. So, how do you get started? Like, I'm a lender. I come to you and I say, I want to implement Kato. Tell me, what do I do?
Yeah, so super fast. We typically start with a pilot, and we can get live with that pilot in as little as 3 weeks. And that needs no engineers from the lender side. Really, we just need their operating procedures, a daily borrower batch file, and their legal sign off, and that's something we help with. And what that means is in 3 weeks, lenders can see dollars coming through the door, and then make the decision on whether they want to go from pilot to full scale implementation from there.
Super fast. So you mentioned earlier that it's generally like heads of servicing, collections folks that are your kind of typical buyer in these fintechs. But who's not a fit yet? Like who's not ready to implement someone like Kato?
So if you've yeah, it scales. So if you've got less than 100 delinquent accounts a month, it's probably too early for you to look at voice AI automation. And or if your balances are high, call it north of 50K per customer, like in mortgage, the calls there tend to be more nuanced and probably and too nuanced for where AI is at today.
Fair enough. You've had a few buyers come through. I know that your buyers are big fans. What do they love about Kato?
Yeah, I mean they love that it's fully managed. Like we take care of all of the complexity. They tell us what they need. We go customize it, and then we run the agent for them and run the calls and manage it on a day-to-day basis. Second, like not having to worry about compliance. That's a big piece. We're built to make sure there's no hallucination risk. And then finally, voice quality. So something I've been having a ton of demos recently where like the first reaction folks have is, wow, like that sounds so natural and that sounds like a human, which has really been amazing to see develop over the last couple of months.
Got it. Has anyone ever one of your delinquent accounts ever been like, is this AI?
Yeah, well, it depends. Some lenders actually we disclose up front it's AI, it's an
Okay,
AI at the top of the call. So a lot of folks already know and engage with the agent regardless. We've had some borrowers like we can clearly tell they understand on the call that it's AI, and then they start to converse with it in a slightly different way, where it's more sort of shorter responses, but they're still very willing to engage and get to a resolution with the agent. So yeah, we found like that doesn't matter whether you know or not it's an AI. Are you willing to engage with it? And we're seeing that as being a resounding yes.
makes sense. I mean, I'm sure that there's when you're trying to sell something like Kato, you also have to build a level of trust and help the kind of buyer adjust to this whole thing, right? Something like that example is pretty telling about the quality of your product. But what else kind of like helps build trust on your guys' side?
Yeah, it's time. Like everyone has, I think the most important question around trust that we have is like how borrowers going to speak with the agent, how are they going to react to it, and that comes with time. Once folks see in a couple of weeks doing that pilot, and hey, like people are willing to engage, they're making payments, they're making promises to pay, that trust is built up pretty quickly, and then we just continue from there.
Okay, cool. We're about ready to wrap up, but I want to do a quick kind of lightning round with you of just questions that I think are kind of interesting. What do you think is like the most underrated fintech tool besides Kato?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm gonna think of one from my personal life here. So I use Wealthfront. I love that the customizable risk tolerances, super easy to navigate UI, and it's sort of peace of mind. It automates buying and selling to maximize my tax savings. Big fan and something I actively I actively market to a lot of my friends.
Very cool. Okay. Quick hot take. Will collections be 80% AI in the next 3 years?
Yes. If you think of it by account volume, it's like absolutely. I think AI is going to handle the bulk of the routine lower balance calls. like the other 20% though, those are going to be the really hairy high dollar cases. Those will still need a human.
Okay. And what's the dealio with Kato in 2025? What are you building?
I love that question. It's the Dilly-o with Kato. There's two big buckets, right? How do we continue to take more work off agents' plates so they can focus on what matters? And then how do we drive better recoveries for lenders? On taking work off agents' plates, so we're continuing to build out integrations with major loan management and CRM systems. So we're actually completing workflows end to end. And then we're going beyond voice as well. So adding SMS, email agents that can follow up with borrowers before or after a call. And then when it comes to recoveries, it's really like we're doubling down on optimization. So things like A/B testing or exploit statistical models that can help us figure out what's the right time, scripts, calling frequency, building that directly into our platform. So we're getting a lender the best possible recovery rates.
Very cool. So many exciting things upcoming. Just want to say that I'm a big fan of Kato. I've been watching you guys since I think you reached out through LinkedIn a year and a half ago. Very cool to see where you guys have gotten so far. And thank you so much for taking the time with me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Kanishka. Yeah, it's been awesome getting to know you as well over the past over a year, and excited to continue our conversation going forward.
Great.